Alright, another day, another round of private battles with my viewers. How are y'all doing? Only got 6 people in this lobby, so we're starting off 3v3s, you know, it's chill. All y'all are welcome to join, you know, pool code and all that. Join, please. Alright. Huh? Whoa, wait, what's going on? Guys? Hello? Huh? What's this over here? Why do I feel like I recognize this? What are you? What? Whoa, what's going on? Hey, calm down. Whoa, what's going on? Hey, whoa, what? What? What's going on? What? Oh my god, my head. What? Why? What's going on? Yup, you read the title right. I solved Splatoon 4. Now before you go to the comments and tell me, well actually, that's impossible! Final Fist always determines the next game. I wouldn't be too hasty to assume that, because not only did I solve Splatoon 4, I have irrefutable evidence that Splatoon 3 had been right under our noses years before its announcement and well before the Splatoon 2 Final Fest. Not only that, but I have suspicion to believe that Kamabako will be making a grand return in Splatoon 4, so dust off your Splatoon 2 copies and let's take a deep dive back into the history of Splatoon. Hello everyone, and welcome to Game Theory. Whoa, wait, wrong channel. That was weird. It was like I got possessed or something. Anyways, my name is Shadow28, and you already know the premise of the video, so let's get into it, shall we? So, I know this is a bold claim, but trust me, if you just watch the whole way through, it will make sense. So sit back, relax, get some popcorn, and enjoy. Let's begin with the very thing that started me down this deceptively large rabbit hole, the Splatoon 2 map, Ruins of Arc Polaris. This map at the time felt really important to me, but I couldn't ever place my finger on why it seemed so important, and then it just kind of fell into obscurity, and that was that. Or so I thought, at least. I recently got back to thinking about the map and decided to go back and take a look at it. And that's where I made a game-changing discovery. This entire time, it had been hinting to us at the plot of Splatoon 3, and it was just right there under our noses. I mean, like, seriously, it was right there! And it's something we all noticed at the time, but didn't think anything of it. I am, of course, talking about all the mammalian imagery that litters the map. Ruins of Arc Polaris has tons of warning signs written in English warning people to not enter the area due to bear activity, and we can see that there is some truth to these signs as we can see a paw print on the shore of the map. Alongside this, we can also see in the distance a crash-landed ship in the water that bears, see what I did there? I'm so sorry, a striking resemblance to the ship we see in Alterna. To me, this all seems a bit on the nose and a direct reference to the campaign of Splatoon 3 story mode. Which is strange, because Ruins of Arc Polaris came out almost a year before the Splatoon 2 Final Fest. Which is weird and makes no sense, because what we all are led to believe is that the Final Fest determines the story of the next game. But what if, even just for a second, we assume that instead of the Final Fest determining the story of the next game, we instead believe that it determines the setting of the next game, which is a very minor distinction, but an important one at that, because with that, suddenly a lot of things start to make sense. It explains how the development of future games can be in progress and have a story being built around a concept like Mr. Grizz being the big bad, and still stay consistent with the winning team of the Final Fest. Because it's much easier to build an environment for a story to take place in than change an entire story based on whoever wins, and it explains how hints like the one on Arc Polaris can be dropped way before the release of the next installment. So you might be saying, this is great and all, but how in the world does this have anything to do with Splatoon 4? And to that I would like to raise you the map Lemuria Hub. I noticed that excluding Shifty Stations, Ruins of Arc Polaris was the very last map to be added to Splatoon 2, so I thought to check the last map added to Splatoon 3, which is Lemuria Hub, and well, I struck gold. Now, before I can talk about how this ties into Splatoon 4, we first need to establish who actually runs Lemuria Hub. which I believe is the previously thought to be shut down Kamabako. If you take a look around the map, you'll find tons of references to the Deep Sea Metro, some obvious and some not so obvious. But first, let's start with the most glaring reference. If you look into the background of Lemuria Hub, you can see a map on the wall detailing how the metro looks. But if you look in the bottom right corner, you can see the top left of the same exact map of the Deep Sea Metro. Along with this, around the Lemuria Hub, you can see some faded eyes. That looks incredibly similar to the eyes you can see around the Deep Sea Metro. And to my knowledge, these eyes aren't seen anywhere else, but I wasn't sure, so I decided to do some digging and scoured the maps in Splatoon 3, and could not find these eyes anywhere else. The only way stuff like this could possibly make its way into Lemuria Hub is if whoever built it knows about the Deep Sea Metro. And who else knows about it other than the agents, the denizens of the deep, and of course, Kamabako. Alright, now let's talk about who actually built Lemuria Hub. Is it the agents, the denizens of the deep, or Kamabako? To answer this, we need to talk about the history behind Lemuria Hub and how it came into existence. What many people don't know is Lemuria was a real-life, theoretical place people used to believe existed. Let me explain. Time to get into some geology and history, let's go! Alright, back before plate tectonics was discovered, if you don't know what those are, it's essentially just what keeps the land masses on Earth moving and is the reason we have mountains, valleys, and even earthquakes as well. Anyways, I digress. Lemuria was a hypothetical continent that people believed to exist at one point in time, and it sunk below the Indian Ocean. While this in of itself isn't important, it's the lore behind it that is. Lemuria was proposed by zoologist Philip Sclater and hypothesized to exist to explain away some discontinuities in biogeography specifically involving lemurs, by acting as a land bridge between southern India, southern Africa, and western Australia. A sunken bridge that was used to transport different creatures to other continents? I wonder where I've heard this one before. Oh wait, this is exactly what the Deep Sea Metro was, a place sunken under the ocean specifically made to transport the denizens of the deep and eventually the main place where octolings assimilated into Inkling society. The Deep Sea Metro is the equivalent of Lemuria. Knowing this, we know not much is known about human history to the Inklings and octolings due to the rising tides, but want to know who does know about the humans' existence? Commander Tartar, and presumably the sea cucumbers as well. You might be asking, well, how does this pertain to anything? Well, I'm glad you asked. This means that whoever built Lemuria Hub clearly knew about Lemuria, and that leaves us with really only two options. Commander Tartar and Sea Cucumber. Commander Tartar is likely dead, so that really leaves us with Sea Cucumber as to who created Lemuria Hub. Still not convinced Kamabako built Lemuria Hub? Well, what if I told you even after the defeat of Commander Tartar, Kamabako is still thriving without him? While I was doing research, I came across this website that was originally only intended for a Japan audience, made by Nintendo. It's a character map showing the relationships between a lot of the characters within the franchise, along with information about each character. While none of this seems important at face value, we could see an old friend there, Sea Cucumber. If we click on his profile, there is a line that says, even after Kamabako's disappearance, he continues to maintain punctual service for those living in the deep sea. Now, I know this, at face value, is contradicting to what I have said previously, but look at the wording closely. It says Kamabako has disappeared, not dissolved. Generally, when a corporation ceases to exist, it dissolves. As we know, Sea Cucumber, or more accurately, the Sea Cucumbers, was created by Commander Tartar to conduct the trains and run everything in the Deep Sea Metro. While this was the primary function, logically I have suspicion to believe that being created in Tartar's image, they too would be driven to the brink of insanity, just like Tartar, and would want to escape, which would explain why they chose to build Lemuria Hub. Which would lead me to believe that in secrecy, they've been working together to keep Kamabako alive. Now finally, time to talk about the big plot point of this entire video. How does this solve Splatoon 4? Well, if you've been following along, you might have pieced it together by now. But if you haven't, let's take everything we know this far. We know Splatoon 3 had been hinted at before it was released with the final map add to Splatoon 2, that map being Ruins of Arc Polaris. We know that Lemuria Hub was so far the last map added to Splatoon 3, and we know that whoever built Lemuria Hub is tied with Kamaboko, or at least the Deep Sea Metro. Do you get it now? With this, if we assume that Splatoon 3 will follow in the steps of Splatoon 2, I believe that Lemuria Hub is the key to solving Splatoon 4, and that the big bad of Splatoon 4 will be someone related to Kamaboko, specifically Sea Cucumber, and even potentially the setting of the game being in or near the Deep Sea Metro. And you know what? I'll go one further. I believe that the final fest of Splatoon 3 will determine whether we see the past, present, or future of what the Deep Sea Metro is to become. So, with all of this information, let's actually put the puzzle pieces into place, shall we? With Lemuria Hub being built by Kamaboko, and also it being the last stage added to Splatoon 3, seeing references from the Deep Sea Metro being shown in Lemuria Hub, the trend that Splatoon 2 has set with the last stage referencing the next game, with the death of Commander Tartar, knowing that Kamaboko is still in operation, and finally with the knowledge that human history is referenced in the name of Lemuria Hub itself, we can only come to one safe conclusion. That conclusion being that Lemuria Hub was built by Sea Cucumber, which in turn means that the Splatoon 4's big bad, I believe, will be our blue and purple little sea pickle friend that if we all paid just a little bit more attention to, wouldn't have gone just as crazy as its successor. And with that, my friends, is how I solved the story of Splatoon 4 and what the future of the franchise will look like. But hey, that's the wrong channel still is what that is. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. This is a little bit different from my usual content, but hey, if you enjoyed it, please check out another video of mine and like and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated, and it helps out my channel a ton. And I'm also currently in a sub race with Thorin Does Stuff. We decided to do a sub race to 300 subscribers, and I'm really trying to win, so please subscribe and help me out. I would really appreciate it. Anyways, without further ado, I will see you all in the next video. See ya!